Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
Here we are. Good morning. We're back in better than ever. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. Our guests on the Shell Pennzoil Performance line, and every once in a while, we get the privilege of making a difference. Here on this show, V Foundation Auction Day every single year and a few other days as well. And today is one of those days, as we are very proud today on Mike and Mike to be taking part of the Walt Disney Company's Day of Giving in support of all of our friends in and around Houston. We'll have Bill O'Brien today, the coach of the Texans. We'll have A.J. Hinch today, the manager of the Astros, who are going home and will play a doubleheader against the Mets on Saturday. And all day long, we will just be reminding everyone of ways that you can help if you would like to. And that makes me feel good, Mike, because I think a lot of times when there are events like this, you sit in a chair like this or anywhere in your living room watching on television, you think, I'm sitting here, I would like so desperately to be helping in some way. Well, today we can show you how.
Yeah, we definitely can. So you can help. And there are other ways as well. I mean, I'm sure like here in Connecticut, I know there are trucks being filled. So you can find out in your local area, are they sending trucks down? You can get stuff to put in that truck to be driven down. That's happening all over the country where aid is coming. So there are definitely, if you choose to, definitely ways to find out and help, and this is one way that Disney will try and give people the opportunity to help as well. If we can't be there physically, like, now we're finding out a lot of the Texans will be able to, the game is we're going to get into cancel, they can get home and they can start physically helping in their situations out there as well. So just because we're not right there doesn't mean we can't aid in some type of way.
The hashtag is Day of Giving, and we will be, again, on our screen right now. For those of you watching on ESPN2, some of the information is displayed. We'll both have it up on Twitter in a few minutes, and we will continue to remind you of it, again, as the day goes on. We'll be doing our regular show today. It's a sports show, a lot of sports to get into today, but in any way that we can, we're thrilled and honored to be able to take part in this day on behalf of all of our friends down in Houston. I've said it a million times, Mike, and again, you're closer to the city than I. You lived there for 2 years were you there?
Like 2.5 years. Yeah. Got cut during that season. So, yeah, I was there. I mean, I enjoyed my time as a young, NFL player just into the league, but I really enjoyed my time down there. Certainly just there a couple of years. There are those, obviously, that have been there for decades and all their lives, and it's just been tragic what's going on. And but you just love, again, seeing everybody just pitching in and helping any way they can.
Yes, when there are people in this country who need help under circumstances like this, It is all of our responsibility to do what we can because, tomorrow it could be you. And so here we come. And, again, we're thrilled to be taking part in this Day of Giving and for all our friends in Houston. And, again, I'm delighted to see they're playing a game there this weekend. I must admit to having been very surprised when I saw that yesterday, pleasantly surprised.
Right, with the Astros.
The Astros,
they finished that three-game set with the Rangers in Tampa. And they were supposed to play tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday. They're going to push it to Saturday, play a doubleheader, and then had the finale on Sunday. I'm with you as well. And the Texans are basically still adamant that they are supposed to open up next Sunday at home against Jacksonville. They say they still plan on doing that. Again, we're not there. We don't know the situation of just how everything is. It's not so much still the stadium. You obviously have to be able to get into it, but so many people involved in putting on a game, and are they going to be able to do it? And it certainly seems like everybody's putting their some efforts into trying to do that, as well as all the cleanup going on.
Correct. And there are people far more educated in this than we, as far as whether that's the right thing to do, the wrong thing to do. If they're going to do it, then I support it, and we'll see what winds up happening there. So, again, we will have Bill O'Brien, the coach of the Texans, a little after 8 Eastern time this morning, and then A.J. Hinch, the manager of the Astros, 9:30 Eastern time this morning, the time central, of course, there in Houston. And we'll get some, just something from them on what it's like there, and Bill and those who are there. But, of course, the real work is being done. I mean, you see these stories. I was reading a story this morning about a doctor who rode in a canoe across because he had to perform a surgery on a teenager who desperately needed it, so they got him into a canoe and they're getting him there. I mean, it's incredible.
You're finding ways to get things done, things like that. That's the thing. There's so many things you don't even think about that are going on there that are small things that there's no camera around. People are just doing to help their fellow human, or help animals. You're seeing dogs being rescued off the top of cars that people are abandoning, their pets, and people helping to save those animals. There's just one thing after another that you're seeing down there that just makes you proud of what people will do. But again, unfortunately, it's surrounded by a catastrophic situation.
Well, one simple thing you can do if you'd like to help people affected by Harvey, you can go to redcross.org/ESPN to donate some money, or you can text the word Harvey to 90999, and you will automatically make a $10 donation. So those are among the ways that we can try and steer you towards being of some help to people who are in desperate need of it and are going to be for as long out into the future as we can imagine. So that's the backdrop of the day. Of course, we'll do our regular sports talk show today, and let's get started with that. Let's go off the top, Mike. Cliff Pennington hit a grand slam yesterday. Game winner. Angels beat the A's 10-8. You may be saying, why in the world would that be leading the show? Well, Mike, there's a reason.
Yeah, there is. It was the 1,101st home run hit in baseball in the month of August, tying the record for the most homers hit in a calendar month since just 2 months ago. So there was 1,101 in June. We got the last day of August. I'm sure there'll be some hit today, so they're going to break the record today. So far, there's been just over 5,000 home runs hit. The record is 5,693. That's going to get obliterated. They're on pace right now as baseball for 6,183 home runs.
So what's the explanation for this? Is it A, the ball is juiced, B, the players are still juiced and we don't know it, or C, the way the game has gone, everyone is just swinging from their heels and they either hit a home run or strike out, and it feels like every single at bat?
To that note, 42.6% of all runs scored this season have come by home runs.
Wow.
The highest percentage by far in Major League history.
Does it say what was next?
No, it does not.
Well, get me that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's 42, ridiculous. Almost half of every run that is scored comes from a home run.
Yeah, just over 42.5% of runs across all of baseball. All of baseball.
It's not the way the game was intended to be played. I mean, things change, they evolve, and all the rest. This is not the way the game was originally intended to be played. I don't even mean that necessarily to say it's a bad thing, but there's no question when Abner Doubleday invented baseball, his idea was not, well, almost all the runs that are scored will be when they hit the ball over that fence way out there. That was supposed to happen only every once in a while.
Off the top.
Hasn't turned out to be the case. All right, U.S. Open tennis. While Roger Federer was rallying in Central Park, and just take a moment to imagine you're at Central Park playing some tennis on a beautiful day in New York City, and Roger Federer walks up and says, hey, guys, I'm just going to practice for a little while. I don't know if you saw those pictures on Twitter.
I did, yeah.
Phenomenal.
Yeah, that's got to be pretty cool. That would be akin to you just going to golf and who's showing up.
I mean,
Rory, anybody?
Tiger Woods, the greatest players.
Yeah.
Roger Federer, he's the greatest tennis player that ever lived.
Yeah.
You're rallying in Central. You're out in Central Park with your friends and you're playing tennis, and the greatest player that ever lived just shows up. That to me, that's what it is. So you name it. It would be like Jack Nicklaus coming out and saying, "Hey, can I play through?
Can I play? Or can I join your fourth?
Yeah. Listen,
or be your fourth?
Listen, we're a 2-ball. It's very slow up there. Can we just join up and play the last 4 holes together? Sure, Jack. Come on over. Bring Tom Watson with you while you're at it. Anyway. At the U.S. Open, Venus won, Sharapova won. What else happened yesterday?
No, just really the Venus winning 7-5, 6-4. I actually saw a lot of that match last night. 73rd U.S. Open match win, tying Steffi Graf for 4th in the open era. So they're tied. Martina Navratilova has 89, tied with Serena. Chris Evert leads the way with 101. You mentioned Maria Sharapova, a 1 as well. And then Federer is going to be looking for his 80th match win at the U.S. Open. So the door is certainly open for a Venus Williams, for a Maria Sharapova as far as name value is concerned. We've seen some of the top seeds already lose there, and we know on the men's side, so many of the top players are out, and Roger Federer is sitting there looking to grab that U.S. Open win.
Off the top.
The deal is done. Kyrie Irving is officially a Boston Celtic on Isaiah Thomas and Jay Crowder and Ante Žižić. And a couple of picks now go to Cleveland. They worked out the compensation, Mike, for an additional second-round draft pick.
I'll tell you what, not a bad haul for Cleveland coming back You talk about the three players, as you said, Jay Crowder and Thomas, the unprotected first-rounder from Brooklyn, which is going to be a top 5, top 3, top pick.
We'll see.
And then 2020 second-rounder, which, it's more ammo if you want to use it later for something. It's another asset that you have, something that Boston had many assets. So all in all, you got to believe the Cavs got a good haul back. They're still in position to be the team coming out of the East, and Kyrie Irving gets what he wants. He gets to go be the man, and a couple years left, and then he'll get his ton of money, and he'll get to see where he can lead the Boston Celtics. But I don't think there's anybody that thinks Cleveland still isn't the best team coming out of the East.
Well, look, if you just assuming Isaiah Thomas is healthy, and that's the big piece in this, but LeBron James. Who's their second-best player now? It's Thomas, right, over Kevin Love. So you'll go LeBron, Isaiah versus Hayward, Kyrie. Yeah. No question, advantage Cleveland.
Yeah.
Then you go to the next guy, and that's Love.
Kevin Love,
better than anybody else that Boston has. So, yes, clearly, to me, if you're looking at the top and then you keep going through the roster, to me, clearly the Cavaliers are better.
I think we knew this from the beginning. It wasn't going to, but again, Boston has set themselves up with a couple of young players, and then obviously Kyrie, who's 25, I think Gordon Hayward's 27. So they're setting themselves up for the future, which I think is a really good move.
Off the top.
Joe Hayden goes from the Browns to the Steelers in what was a very eventful day for him. He got cut and he got signed.
Well, Drew Rosenhaus, remember we said yesterday, said he'll have a job within a week, and he missed that by 6 days. He'll have a job the next day, and that's not shocking at all. He was supposed to. This is where Cleveland is going right now. Cleveland's one of their first-round picks a couple of years ago, Cameron Ervin, the offensive lineman, never fit in there. They traded him for a fifth-rounder to Kansas City. So, I mean, they're moving guys. That's what they're doing. Hayden was supposed to make $11 million with Cleveland. They asked him to take a pay cut. He didn't. So this is where it led to. You knew he was going to get another deal somewhere. There was a bunch of teams that were interested in him. He went to Pittsburgh and never left Pittsburgh and signed there. That's where he wanted to play. And, oh, by the way, the opening game is Pittsburgh against Cleveland, I believe.
Off the top.
And finally, the sports world yesterday mourning the death of the great Rollie Massimino, who was one of the really great figures in college basketball, the 85 championship game. And he was the architect of basketball's version of the perfect game, right? The perfect game in baseball, the really famous one is Don Larson in the World Series. In 1985, when Georgetown basketball, and we'll have John Thompson on later today, Big John, when they were as dominant as any team you've seen in college basketball since Alcindor, Villanova as an 8 seed from their same conference in a year in which 3 Big East teams were in the Final Four because Mullen and St. John's and Louis were there, Rollie Massimino and Villanova pitched a perfect game to beat that team by 2 in what remains, I think, one of the most compelling basketball games and one of the great upsets of all time.
Yeah, and remember, Georgetown beat Villanova twice in the regular season that year. Beat them 2 times, and then Villanova gets it done. But Rollie, listen, he was 41 years as a head coach. We remember him there and that win, obviously, but he passed away. He's 82 years old. Half his life he was a head coach at 5 schools, 4 Division I schools. And think of that run that he made by seeding, still the lowest total number by seeding. Second round, he beat a number 1 Michigan, Elite 8, a number 2 North Carolina, Final 4, number 2 Memphis, and then beating a number 1 Georgetown in the national championship game. Just an incredible run, as I said, by a team that lost 2 times to Georgetown in the regular season.
He was still coaching right up until the very end. He was coaching at an NAIA school in Florida where he lived, but he was around the Villanova program. Jay Wright had brought him back. It was a wonderful basketball life for a basketball lifer who was on Chuck Daly's staff at Penn.
Yeah.
I remember that was a team, that Penn team that ultimately played in the Final Four the year Magic Johnson and Larry Bird were in it. So that's off the top. It's what everyone's talking about. It's brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts, better prices every day. Just go ahead, Mike.
I mean, I was going to say a couple of Judd Heathcote and
Rollie, both
and
the
now
same
Rollie.
week.
Yeah, I mean, that's a couple of legends, yeah.
Absolutely. And again, I don't think that Massimino was on the staff when they were in that Final Four. So Heathcote, that Michigan State team which won the title, I don't think Massimino was still there anymore because that was 79. He was there earlier, but he was Chuck Daly's assistant at Penn. Just think about the basketball career that guy had, and then all the way through, obviously, most famously, that Villanova team. I wanted to also just mention one other thing from the Browns when you talk about Hayden and everything. Mm-hmm. Now, listen, I have no idea if this is going to work.
Right.
And they haven't earned the benefit of the doubt with the way they've churned through everything there.
No, that's true.
But they had a plan. They're sticking to it. If Deshaun Kaiser winds up being their quarterback, what I'm saying is, if they have their quarterback already, think about how quickly that team can get up and running. Have you seen their draft next year?
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, it's pretty solid.
They have 2 1s, 3 2s, a 3, 2 4s, 2 5s, 2 6s, and a 7 in the 2018 draft. Let me say that again. They have 2 1s, they have 3 2s, a 3, 2 4s, 2 5s, 2 6s, and a 7. They basically have 2 drafts. They basically are drafting for 2 teams in the 2018 draft. So if that is the way you put a franchise together, now of course if they don't get the quarterback thing figured out, it won't make any difference. If they have to use one of those picks, assuming it's a high one, which we figure it would be on Darnold or one of the big quarterbacks, then okay, that's one thing. But if they hit the lottery and Kaiser as a second rounder winds up being someone they think they can win with,
sure.
Now, all of a sudden, you load up your roster. In 1 year, they could get that thing turned around. So give them some credit. That's sort of the NFL's version of the process, and I think they have a chance for it to work.
Well, it's just a matter of how long does it come to fruition. And you're right. It starts at the quarterback. They've helped by acquiring a couple of interior offensive linemen, veterans, to protect Kaiser. They have one of the greats of all time in Joe Thomas out at left tackle. You Njoku, you get as a tight end, a really athletic tight end, as one of the weapons. To your point, you're correct. They have a plan, and they're sticking to it. Everything else be damned. So now it's just a matter of how long does the plan take, and with those picks, whether you use them to pick players or to trade. I mean, look at the Celtics. As Danny Ainge correctly said, with all the picks, they're assets. Same thing with the Browns. Those are assets that you have, whether you pick people or use them in trades. Now you have to make the right decision. That's been certainly an issue with the Browns over the years. Is it's not like they haven't had high picks before, and they've absolutely blew it with those picks. So they've had 1, 2, 3 picks in first rounds, and they've managed not to be able to hit on them. So now, okay, you have those assets, you have your plan. Now you got to make the right decision. So that's going to be the real test. It's one thing to have a bunch of assets. It's another thing to use them properly.
Of course. Look, I mean, it's off the top of my head. In the last decade, they've taken 3 quarterbacks in the first round, unless I'm forgetting one. Brady Quinn, Brandon Whedon, and Manziel. And they're still looking for a quarterback. Yes. So that's the single biggest problem that you have. And look, I mean, if Kaiser winds up not being the guy, playing him is the smart thing to do, because they'll find that out. You know, right. I keep hearing again.
And see if they have to go to it next year.
Exactly right. I don't mean to keep relating everything to the Jets, but if they are going to give up on Christian Hackenberg, they're going to do it now. So they're going to have to play him and see one way or the other, because next year has all these quarterbacks in the draft. The Browns are in the same position, and the dream scenario is Kaiser shows you enough that you say, all right, he's the guy.
I can use it for other stuff.
Now we build this whole team around him. They could get good quickly. Now, you're right. Obviously, they have to make the right picks.
Yes, they do.
But they have the chance to do it. Mike and Mike presented by Progressive Insurance. You could save hundreds on your car, business, or recreational vehicle insurance from a local independent agent. Go to Progressive.com today. Now, that's Progressive. A couple of other notes before we get David Pollack in here, because college football kicks off tonight, and I'm looking forward to talking with him. The game day guys are in Bloomington, Indiana. Ohio State and Indiana play tonight. But a few other notes. Did you see Dana White yesterday say that the fight over the weekend, the Mayweather-McGregor fight, had 6.5 million buys? Now, that's not an official number. That's just him talking. And, there's a whole lot of trash talk, by people in that industry. But, I mean, he's a credible person. I don't think he's going to say that, and then the number is going to come in at 4.1. So I think we're about to see. The record is 4.6.
4.6, right.
It is going to have been obliterated. When these final numbers come in, based upon what Dana White said yesterday, this is, I think, going to wind up having been overwhelmingly the most purchased fight in history.
But I think we kind of saw that coming. And one downside for Dana is he's in the process of getting a bunch of refunds back as well. Their app, or one of the ways that they were trying to sell it off the UFC app or whatever it was, whoever they used for that.
I think it was,
they had some problems, so they're in the process of giving some refunds for that. But I'm not stunned it would be the top. Maybe a little stunned that it would beat it by 2 million buys or in that area of buys, which would be pretty incredible. I don't know what would be. What would we'd have to wait for next that could even approach, something like that? I have no idea what's out there for that.
It requires a star. I mean, what could approach that in right now? I hate to say this. The boxing fan is going to hate me saying this.
Yeah.
The biggest star in boxing right now is Conor McGregor. Now, he's not a boxer, And he may never box again. He may not. That's up to him. He could sit back and make his own choices now, I would think, right? But he's the biggest star in boxing, assuming Floyd Mayweather is genuinely retired. Now, if Triple G and Canelo put on a great show, the winner of that thing will emerge a bigger star than he is now, but not as big a star as Conor McGregor is now.
You will get a good gauge, I think, of where this is a monster fight in boxing, right?
Sure,
it's a huge fight. So right now, let's throw the McGregor-Mayweather at the top. So I'm looking at the top 5 right now. So Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson would actually be number 6 now. If you put this one at number 1, then it's Mayweather-Pacquiao, Mayweather-De La Hoya, Mayweather-Alvarez, Holyfield, Tyson, Lennox Lewis, Tyson. That's at 1.97 million buys. Let's see where this boxing.
I'll take the under.
No. I will too. I'm saying where, how much under. It's not going to approach what will be the 6th best. But my point is, this is a huge fight for boxing. Huge fight, right?
With very little crossover appeal.
Right. So I think this will give us where we kind of are with boxing and with star power in boxing by just how much under. Because I agree with you, it's not going to approach the 6th best of 1.97. I never thought it would, but just how much below that will it be to kind of say where are we right now with boxing and the stars of boxing? I know I'm getting it. I'm looking forward to the fight. I think they're 2 excellent fighters, but from a national perspective, it's not going to come anywhere near this.
All right, so we've got more on that as we continue. We got the Vontaze Burfict decision, which Golic has strong feelings about. We have details from Woj on the Celtics and the Cavs trade. Most importantly, today is the day of giving, and all morning long here on Mike and Mike and throughout the ABC and ESPN programs, we'll be offering ways that you can help our friends in Houston if you choose to do so. We're Mike and Mike. We're presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests today on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line will include the coach of the Houston Texans, Bill O'Brien, and the manager of the Houston Astros, A.J. Hinch. So we look forward to that.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, we help keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home, safe home.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Wait.
Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
Once again, we are honored to be kicking off ESPN and ABC's Day of Giving. And a reminder, you can text the word Harvey to 90999 and you will make a $10 donation just for doing it. We also have up on social right now, both of us at ESPN Golic and ESPN Greeny, other ways that you can help if you would like. Meanwhile, college football beginning again tonight with the game day crew in Bloomington for Ohio State and Indiana. And our David Pollack is up bright and early this morning and ready to go with us. Good morning, David.
It's go time. Week 0, is out of the way, so now it's time to go.
I always like that week 0. Remember the NCAA tournament? They didn't want you to call it play-in games.
Right.
They wanted it to be first round, and we got week 0 in football. It's amazing.
And so now week 1 kicks off tonight, and you guys are there to see it. Are we watching one of the 4 best teams in the country when it's all said and done? Ohio State is ranked 2 right now, but when it's all said and done, will we be seeing tonight one of the 4 best teams in the country in Ohio State?
Yes, you will. Ohio State's a talented team. I think the addition of Kevin Wilson on offense, we saw Ohio State a couple years ago at their best when Tom Herman was an offensive coordinator. And, he's obviously a great play caller, but fiery. Urban Meyer's not in the day-to-day operations of calling offense anymore. He's not at that stage in his career. I mean, he is one of the best leaders and has a great pulse with his team, but having a great OC that can do his thing like he's had in Dan Mullen and Tom Herman in the past. Now you bring over Kevin Wilson. I think the offense takes a huge step forward. And now the defense is going to be good, too. And the defense has been good and talented. The defensive line is one of the best in the country. And I think you're looking at the most surefire unlock for the college football. If I had to put my top 4 in a confidence order, Ohio State would be number 1, and they'll kick it off tonight, and we'll see what they're really made of live and living color.
Yeah, they certainly are the one team people are picking to absolutely – everybody always thinks that's going to be Alabama, but it's Ohio State. So we'll see that game tonight. There are other games tonight, and so we're trying to look at some other teams that may crash the party of the four that most people think are going to be there. Do you think Oklahoma State's home against Tulsa tonight? Mason Rudolph is back. A lot of the weapons on offense are back. You know, they score 100 and give up whatever. You know, it's a Big 12. So we kind of talk about that in a little different terms because they talk about the defense there. But there's no doubt about the firepower of this offense. So it seems to be between Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. Give us your thumbnail on Oklahoma State, and can they crash this Final Four party?
It's interesting, Mike. I think the Big 12 is going to be really solid, and not just Oklahoma State. You know, you look at Kansas State, and they got a quarterback coming back that's a dual threat kid that's going to be very tough to stop, and the list goes on. I think TCU is going to be really solid. I think West Virginia is going to be pretty good. So I think the Big 12 is going to cannibalize itself, and I think they're going to beat each other up because there's a lot of really, really good teams. And again, like you said. So in a game like that, Mike, who gets a few turnovers? You make a few mistakes against a really good offense, and all of a sudden you look up and they put up 14 points off those 2 turnovers, and you're in a 21-0 hole just like that. So I think Oklahoma obviously is going to be good. Oklahoma State's going to be good, but I think it's a conference that's going to have a lot of teams that are good, and I think they're going to beat each other up this season.
David Pollack is with us again. We had your cohorts in studio a couple of weeks ago, Desmond and Herbie. And we got into a little bit of a debate as to what happens to the loser of some of these monster opening games, the biggest of which, of course, is Alabama and Florida State. And while as a football fan, I love the fact that they're playing each other early, I was saying as a coach, I wouldn't schedule this game because I think the loser puts itself into a box. You can't lose 2 games and get to the championship. So it feels to me like while everyone is saying, well, whoever loses this game is just fine, I don't know that they're just fine. What did you take on Alabama, Florida State, and what becomes of the team that winds up losing it?
Well, how do you lose? I mean, if you get blown out coming out the box by a good team, it's a little bit different than playing a close-fought game that was decided at the end. And you go, man, I think they could have won that football game. So I think that we haven't seen it with the committee for sure yet. What we did see is Ohio State got rewarded last year. They played Oklahoma out of conference. They stomped them out in Norman, and they ended up going to the college football playoff without winning their conference. And I think you can look to that and say that was a big deal. Now, there's obviously other ways to look at it, too, because Washington didn't play anybody, and they got in last year. So we don't know what the committee's going to do. We never do. They're human beings in a room that see things totally different than one another, and they have to make decisions. But I think you're better served because you find out about your team early. Your off season is better when you play a good team out the gate. You focus a little bit more. You watch a little bit more tape. And if you put up a good performance, win or lose, you're not out of the mix. Neither one of Florida State or Alabama are out of it if they lose this weekend.
Well, how about another big game this weekend? Number 17, Florida. Number 11, Michigan. Florida names their quarterback, redshirt freshman Felipe Franks. There was a 3-person, Luke Del Rio was in there. Malik Zaire transferred from Notre Dame as well. They were in the mix. So they named the redshirt freshman the starter. They suspended 2 more players. It's up to 10. David, did they decide to play this game with one arm tied behind their back? I mean, did you give them much of a chance in this game?
No, I still give them a great chance. And I think Florida's one of those teams this year that you talk about crashing the party or having a great season. I think they can. They've got all their important games at home. Remember LSU last year, threw a little bit of a temper tantrum and wanted to host a game and ended up losing it. Well, now they got to go to Florida this year and play them, which is going to be a little bit tougher. If they had all their weapons, I think Florida wins the game. Obviously, when you start to take out running backs and receivers and important guys on your team, you start to have a little bit more cause for concern. But I think Florida's got a chance. Felipe Franks, Mike, he can throw the ball through a car wash and not get it wet. I mean, he has a hose. I think Malik Zaire, I thought Franks would be the guy. I think Zaire's a guy that you bring in. You use his wheels, you use his feet. But Florida offensively, they look like Florida again. They got speed on the outside that can go. They got an offensive line that is the best they've had in this era. They've got running backs, and several of them, thank goodness, because obviously one of them being suspended. So I think Florida could have a big year. they have to get through these suspensions and the knucklehead stuff off the field, but they've got a lot of talent.
And finally, David, I know the Heisman is an award that everyone focuses on and Golic hates.
Yeah.
Who at this point in your mind, if you had to put a favorite for the Heisman before the thing gets started, who do you like?
Well, I think everybody's saying Sam Darnold, and I get that because of how sensational he was a year ago. I think the best player in college football is Saquon Barkley. And if Penn State has another year like they did a year ago and does great things, and I think they will because of him, and he's the most unstoppable force, I think he should be a guy that's definitely in the mix. It's a quarterback award, and that's why Golic hates it, and that's why I hate it sometimes, because if you're not a quarterback, you're stacked behind the eight ball. And think about it, dual-threat quarterbacks now like Lamar Jackson. Saquon rushes for 2,000 yards, has a phenomenal season. Lamar rushes for 1,300, but he also gets the passing yards, and he also gets the passing touchdowns. So it's a stacked deck for quarterbacks. In the year of the quarterback, you look at Sam Darnold and Jake Browning and J.T. Barrett and those guys, they're going to be the front runners. But for me, Saquon Barkley is the best player in the country.
David Pollack and company tonight in Bloomington, Ohio State, Indiana, kicking off college football in a big way for us at ESPN. Looking forward to it, David. Thank you.
Thanks, David.
Appreciate it, guys. Have a good one.
That's David Pollack on the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. Get instant gold status at Shell. Join the Fuel Rewards program now at fuelrewards.com/gold.
Barkley's the pick for the non-quarterbacks out there. Everybody's leaning toward him. Love watching that kid run. I think he's going to be huge for Penn State. But it does seem to be that quarterback award, if not to that running back then as well. As far as Florida, man, I mean, you know, the thought process of 10, and they're sticking with it, obviously, all having to do with the IDs they use for money and what the books and all that, and they're all getting in trouble for that because there was a thought, do you suspend a few now? Do you break it up by games? They're not all 10 guys here. Felipe Franks they're going with, again, the redshirt freshman. He does. Kid 6'6", like 220 as a whip. Don't be surprised if you see Malik Zaire in that red zone or in that running type of a situation that he can bring to them as well. And of the 10, they're not all starters, but, you know, you lose depth. And that's something for teams like Florida who have a lot of really good athletes. They rely on rolling guys in and some depth. It certainly in this game could hurt their depth.
Sports fans anywhere can earn a nationally recognized degree from Penn State online. Whether you're starting or finishing your degree, study where and when it's convenient for you. Choose from more than 125 programs to become a top prospect in your field and advance your career. Learn more at worldcampusinfo.com. Penn State World Campus, a world of possibilities. Online. Visit worldcampusinfo.com today. That's worldcampusinfo.com.
You know, I don't mean to keep sounding like I'm pouring cold water on this thing, okay? I'm thrilled that these games exist. Mm-hmm. But here's the problem. Even more so in an era where you're putting stuff into the hands of humans as opposed to just a bunch of data into a computer. Last year, Penn State lost one game in the Big Ten at Michigan. Washington lost one game in the Pac-12 against USC. You would argue, I guess, based upon everything, that Penn State's loss in conference was better than Washington's loss because it was on the road, and I think Michigan wound up ranked higher than USC. At least they were ranked higher when they got to the decision-making time.
Though because it was humans, a lot of people could see that USC was one of the best teams in the country at that point.
Fair enough. But either way, the difference then is that Washington played Rutgers, Idaho, and Portland State, and thus only had one loss on their season. Penn State lost at Pitt by 3 points in their non-conference. Washington got into the Final Four, and Penn State did not. So it's not even an argument. It is a statement of fact that Penn State lost out to Washington based upon scheduling a better team in the non-conference and losing. So I keep going back to this. If I'm the person making the schedule, I get the kids want to play the best schedule. They want to play the tougher teams. I understand that. But you don't make your schedule based upon who the players want to play. You make your schedule, I would think, based upon giving yourself the best chance to get in. Not losing games is the best way to get in.
Ohio State would not have been in had they not beaten Oklahoma.
But if they had lost, they wouldn't have had any chance of getting in. Oklahoma, meanwhile, if they had not gotten blown out by Ohio State, who knows where they would have been as they were coming on late in that season.
But so it can work for and against. I understand what you're saying. But if Ohio State played a patsy, they wouldn't have been in. So it worked in their favor that they beat Oklahoma then.
So you're
that's
saying
what got them past.
There's heavy risk, heavy reward.
Yeah, that's exactly right, without question.
But if I'm a team in a big-time conference, I'm counting on the fact. Now, this would have bitten Ohio State last year because they lost to Penn State. They didn't even get into the conference championship game.
Our examples both came into play last year.
Right.
The Ohio State on why to play that game, and for Washington on the why to play lesser teams and get in. It happened both sides. So this can happen every year.
But I would roll the dice. If I'm Alabama, I'm figuring if I win the SEC championship, I'm going to get into the playoff. Mm-hmm. It feels very difficult for me to envision a circumstance in which the SEC champion does not wind up getting into the college football playoff. Now, if the winner of one of the divisions has 3 losses, but none of that's going to happen. I'm just looking for the most direct way to get in there. And again, I cannot criticize. No. I know people love to do it. I cannot criticize the schools like Baylor historically and now with Washington last year and all of them for not scheduling tough opponents because historically it has proven to work. Washington last year was the best example.
Historically, but that could change because you have a committee now. We haven't had a committee all that long, and you take the read from the committee.
They put Washington in there
and they put Ohio State in ahead of Penn State.
They never had Ohio State out. They loved Ohio State from the get-go.
And a lot of it was what they did to Oklahoma.
Game. You're right.
I mean, so it's both sides. So
you're right.
What you have to do. Now, the other thing is, remember, these schedules are made up in advance, but you have to kind of read. The committee doesn't have to say anything, but you can. They say plenty by how they're doing things. You have to try and get a read on that.
Little more Twitter here through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed on the trade finally being fully consummated now between the Celtics and the Cavaliers. Kyle tweets, this trade helps Golden State. Everyone will now focus mainly on Kyrie and IT while the Warriors dominate quietly.
I don't really understand that one bit.
I mean, I guess he's suggesting that it'll take some of the pressure off Golden State, but I'm not sure what pressure
I have no idea
is on them to begin with.
Yeah.
Curtis tweets, that's not a haul. Cavs made a robbery. Now they can give the Nets pick Shumpert, Fry, and Zizic for Cousins. Cavs ain't finished yet. I think it is a haul. I guess maybe he's stating it's more than a haul.
It is a without question.
I think that this Kobe Altman is the executive of the year already. He's been the executive for like 6 weeks, and he's the executive of the year. And then finally, Kay Stroud tweets at me, if Doubleday didn't invent for home runs to be a big part of baseball, why did he put a fence in the game? We'd have to go back and see exactly why he did, I guess, so the ball couldn't just roll forever. But there's no question the game was not intended for 40% of the scoring to come on home runs.
Just like when the peach basket was put up, the whole idea was get as close as you can to it and put the ball in, and now, no one wants to get near it.
That's actually a good point. Which of those games has changed more from its inception based upon what it was thought to be? We'll see. Anyway, big day today as we will continue. Schefter coming up. Both Houston coaches, or 2 Houston coaches today on this hashtag Day of Giving with all of us at ESPN.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Oh, wait.
Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
Home isn't just a place. It's a feeling. Whether you're at home, your business, or online, ADT helps keep you safe. With security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance. So you can feel at home, wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling. ADT. Home. Safe home.
We begin the second hour of our show this morning, and really proud and privileged to be kicking off the Disney Company's Day of Giving. The hashtag is Day of Giving, and across ABC and ESPN programming all day today, we are trying to help you find ways to help our friends in Houston and the surrounding areas, and very simple ways. You can text the word Harvey to 90999. You make a $10 donation. You can go to redcross.org/ESPN to find other ways that you can help. Mike and I and the show and everyone else have other ways up on social media as well as we try as best we can. I know, Mike, it satisfies that need that I feel as I sit there watching it helplessly.
Yeah, you want to do something.
You
want to do something. And one of the first things I saw, some people want to make a $10 donation or a money donation. That's absolutely fine, and we certainly would encourage that. But as I said, here in Connecticut, I see trucks getting loaded up to drive down, and that's happening all over the country. So if you find a place in your area where you can just buy something, whatever may be needed, from water to diapers to who knows, that can get loaded on that truck and driven down, then so be it. But, because we look at the pictures every day and you feel kind of helpless. Boy, you'd like to be doing something and you're thousands of miles away, but there's always some way to help. And I guess that's and it's been going on. There's been plenty of help going on, tons of donations happening, truckloads of supplies being sent to the areas of need, and I'm sure that's going to continue.
We will have two of the Houston area coaches today. Bill O'Brien, coach of the Texans, just after 8 Eastern, just after 7 Houston time, and then we will have A.J. Hinch, manager of the Astros, who are headed home and will play a doubleheader Saturday against the Mets in the first games back in Houston. He'll be with us 9:30 Eastern, 8:30 Central Time. So we look forward to both of those as we talk about what's going on there. And again, we thank everyone for all of your assistance. Back to the sports news of the day, and a couple of things before we get on to other matters. You made me think about something. Mm-hmm. So we had the stat earlier. They're going to break the first home run that is hit in baseball today will break the record for most home runs ever hit in a month by the sport. The record was set 2 months ago in June.
Right.
July probably would have been right there also, except that they have a week off for the All-Star game. So they're hitting home runs at an almost ridiculous rate. 40%. Didn't you give me that number? Like 40% of
42.6% of all runs scored this season have come by home run, which is the highest percentage in baseball history.
Going back to the way the game was originally created, what they had in mind when they devised the game of baseball, that has nothing to do with it. That is not even remotely approaching what the game of baseball was originally intended to be. This is not a value judgment. It's not a criticism. I'm just saying it's not. In the same way that when they invented basketball, you mentioned this, and to your credit, You're 100% right. When they invented basketball, the intention was not to find a way to get someone open from 26 feet away.
Yeah.
The idea was to get the best possible shot as close as you could to the basket. So it really makes you say, which game is the most different from what its original intention was? Football, I mean, they did not intend for the forward pass.
No, there's some obviously major changes and evolution in all the games.
But it really wasn't so much a rule change. Yes, they've changed a lot of the rules about what you can do defensively, but it just sort of evolved into this. Whereas baseball I guess baseball hasn't been a rule change either. Right, they didn't change a rule about home runs.
No, they did not.
Basketball is the one that has been the most impacted.
They made it more beneficial point wise to shoot it from further away from the peach basket.
Think about it. If a home run counted as 2 runs, if every run scored via the home run, you just added 1. So if there's no one on base and you hit a home run, they counted as 2 runs.
Yeah.
Then everyone would be swinging for home runs.
They are now anyway.
Well, they are now anyway.
Yeah.
And in football, if a scoring play, if a touchdown play, if it was worth 1 extra point or 2 extra points, if you threw it in rather than ran it in, that would sort of be the equivalent of what you have in basketball.
It would, but in what we have in baseball is they're already hitting home runs, and in football it's already a passing league. So this is what we've evolved into.
One other note that I just came across, and Schefter will be in our studio in about 25 minutes. Schefter just tweeted this. This is, I know, near and dear to the hearts of a lot of former football players who were guys who lived around the cut line, who lived in constant concern for their job. Based upon the new way they did it this year, where no team has cut basically anybody yet.
Right. You're basically going to go from 90 to 53 in one fell swoop.
Schefter just tweeted, by Saturday, 32 NFL teams will release roughly 37 players per team. That's almost 1,200 players released. Up to 320 will come back on practice squads, but something in the neighborhood of 865 aspiring football players will see their dream end this week.
Everybody got an extra week of those guys who would have been cut. They got an extra $1,100 in their pocket, extra time on film, which can help some because guys where the positions are really filled on the team they're on, they'll get on tape. This last game and throughout preseason, and other teams that may be a little more deficient or need a little more depth or maybe a practice squad member, they can go to other teams. That's why from the business side, and again, it doesn't come into play, the Cowboys, this preseason game that got canceled, the Cowboys still had 4 preseason games because they played in the Hall of Fame game.
Right.
The Texans had 3. Now, a lot of times by that 4th game, you pretty much have your roster set. There may be a couple of guys on the back end you're looking to, and maybe some competition for some practice squad spots that now that some of the back end Texans players won't have. But still, they've gotten on tape before, and it doesn't measure. That's what they're doing is absolutely positively the right thing. I'm just covering all aspects of it.
It doesn't change the fact that for some of those guys,
it will affect them, yes.
Yeah, it's an opportunity they won't get.
They won't get
if they don't make the Texans, that some other team might see them on film.
That's exactly right. But it does. It pales in comparison. It's just touching all the bases of this in comparison to what's going on in Houston and the need for players to get back and really more healing there to keep going.
I heard Mikey talking about that yesterday.
Yeah.
Mike was doing Bomani's show.
I was a 10th out of a 12th round guy. I was a back-end draft guy. Mike didn't get drafted. He was signed by Pittsburgh as a 7th round basically was going on, or right after the draft. So he was one of those guys that could use that extra tape. And, you know, it's unfortunate. It is. That's the business side of looking at this. But that being said, I believe it's the absolute right decision that was made by canceling this game.
Yeah, and so did he. He wasn't saying it was the wrong decision. It just is a factor. All right, let's do Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Vontaze Burfict had his suspension reduced from 5 games to 3 games. The question, Mike Golic, is should he have been suspended at all for the hit that he made that caused all of this discussion?
Again, it was a hit within a 5-yard area where you're actually allowed to touch a receiver with your hands or hit a receiver if you choose to hit him. Now, according to the NFL, he broke 2 rules. One is, and there was already the defenseless rule, but they've kind of added on to it. It was unnecessary contact against a player in a defenseless posture. So let's look at that. I mean, it was in the 5-yard hit area, and it was a player that was looking back at the quarterback. I mean, I guess I want to ask the NFL, what is a defender? I get, okay, if you don't want him to blast him, if you could just say, man, what a jerk. He didn't need to hit him like that.
Great.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
But what was illegal about it? I mean, if I'm an offense, I'm telling every player, no matter what, turn your head back to the quarterback. You now have become defenseless and can't get hit. If they want to say it was from the side or the back, to me it wasn't. Burfict came straight up. The receiver was turned because he was looking back at the quarterback within the 5-yard area. I have a hard time with that one, saying you're hitting a defenseless receiver. The other one that was broke, it said he hit a player who was out of the play. And again, you see the ball sailing further down the field. If you look at that play and understand Vontaze Burfict or a player is not looking at the entire field. Vontaze Burfict is looking at his responsibility. And at one point, and I could see it, you see the quarterback, he doesn't pump fake, but as the play's going on, when we show the play, we're already showing the pass. If you watch from the beginning of the play, he peeks down first. He looks that way first before throwing it long. And when he peeks, Burfict attacks. And he doesn't, whether he thinks the ball is coming there or not, the quarterback does peek. You can't tell me he doesn't. He peeks, and Burfict goes for his responsibility. Again, you could sit there and say he didn't need to do that and say, I don't like the guy, he's a jerk for doing it. That's fine. To me, is it illegal? And the NFL found 2 plays in which it was illegal, and I would say I disagree. The peek down made him go for his responsibility. And, defenseless, you have a 5-yard hit area. As I said, so if a receiver or back is in that 5-yard area and all they're doing is looking back at the quarterback, are you not allowed to touch him then? I mean, he didn't hit him in the head because that wasn't brought up anywhere.
Correct.
That he was hit in the head. So I'm having a hard time with this one. The defense is already on their heels with where you can hit a guy. And this one, I honestly, I do not understand. And you wonder, how much is it Burfict? How much, if it was a linebacker X, what would have happened? Someone who hasn't been suspended and lost almost $1 million in fines.
This is his third 3-game suspension.
If it would have been different or not. Listen, do I think he steps over the line? Absolutely I do, without question. And I think some of his fines and suspensions have been absolutely justified. But I'm looking at this going, my God, how much can you take away? How much can you take away? The guy is in the 5-yard area looking back at the quarterback, and he got hit. What's a player in bang-bang plays supposed to look at and say, okay, I can only go there, then I have to stop and just put my hands on him. It's a physical game. People are going to get hit. And I get getting some of the vicious hits out of the game. I understand all that. But to me, this just got to a point where, wow, I mean, he peeked at him, he attacked his responsibility, and he hit a guy square up and didn't hit him in the head. To me, I just don't see it.
I come out of this with two questions. One is this an appropriate way to define a defenseless player? Because I've always thought of a defenseless player as one not necessarily who's not looking. Like the definition of a defenseless player is a punter with his leg in the air, right? There's nothing that guy can do.
Or a receiver who's going for the ball,
out.
or obviously, yeah.
That's how I've always envisioned.
Me too.
What they meant by a defenseless player. If you're all stretched out because you're diving for the ball, you don't have the ability to duck or whatever it is to sort of protect yourself. Defenseless. The definition of defenseless. In this case, they're now ruling defenseless covers players who are just not looking.
Just not looking. That was the new part that was added to this of a player not looking can't get hit.
I mean, not being a former player, I sort of have to defer to the majority of former players as to whether that is an appropriate definition of it or not. To protect that guy in that spot, because as long as the game has been played, I've heard people say you got to keep your head on a swivel. You have to know where everybody is.
What you're taking away any kind of, I don't think there's intimidation factor anymore, but how about a guy, if he runs a route, knows he's going to get hit, and making him have to think about that as well as trying to catch a pass. Now we're just saying, look at the quarterback. They can't touch you, so you can go ahead and catch a pass all you want.
Well, look, this may not be the right way to look at it, but if the ball had been thrown in that situation to the receiver, Anthony Sherman coming out of the backfield, this would not have been a penalty.
No, it would not have been a penalty. Because if the ball didn't get to him and Burfict hit him before the ball got there, it would have been interference.
Yeah. The other side of it, though, is you use the right word. There is a penalty in the sport, and it was not invoked here, for unnecessary roughness. Is that an unnecessarily rough play? What I'm saying is, should you be allowed to contact the receiver inside of 5 yards? Yes. But did he need to do that? I mean, he obliterated the guy.
Now where's the line we're
drawing?
I
don't know. I'm asking you. Well, you're a former player. You know what a dirty play looks like. Is that a dirty play?
When I look at that, was it probably unnecessary? It probably was. But are we making that illegal? You can just say, come on, dude, you don't need to do that. But do you have to suspend him for 3 games for it?
Well,
I mean,
another player might have only been fined $20,000 for it, but maybe when you're him, you get
or maybe nothing should have happened because you just say, that was.
But if you're trying to get unnecessary hits out of the game, then you can legislate against them.
The point was, it obviously is subjective. And when the quarterback peeked down to him, Burfict attacked. And if he never looked at him at all and Burfict just ran a beeline for him, no matter what the quarterback was doing, just ran straight for him and flattened him and ran him over, I could see more of that point. But I saw the peek, and this guy's a physical, hard player. And
is he physical or is he dirty?
Well, no, he actually absolutely has done some dirty things.
Is that a dirty play?
To me, it leans more to the, did you have to hit a guy like that? Probably not, but I also say it's football. You got pads on. You know what? What's so bad about making a guy think when he just comes trailing out of the backfield that he's not going to get touched in the 5-yard area? You're allowed to get hit there. So, I mean, to me, there's that fine line of saying, how much are we taking away? That's the one last area you can get hit. So if a guy gets drilled, you know what? Maybe put the onus on him. Maybe when you're coming out of the backfield, maybe you got to peek and find out where a linebacker is that's coming to hunt you up. Maybe, God forbid, you get a little advantage to the defense that says the offensive player has to worry more about, just turning and catching the ball and knowing no one can touch him if he's not facing the defense. So to me, that's where I go a little bit. We're getting a little too far away of, my God, the defense can basically just stand there until a guy catches the ball, then you go ahead and hit him.
I guess what I would say is, it's one thing to not be able to touch a guy inside 5 yards. It's another thing to blow him up.
Let me ask you a question.
You didn't have to.
Next time that guy comes out, you think he's looking?
Probably.
Could that be an advantage for the defense?
Yeah.
God forbid.
I get it. Okay. Well, first of all, they don't make a lot of rules that are advantageous
no, they don't.
to the defense.
No, they don't.
And second of all, he kind of loses the benefit of the doubt because of the dirty history that he's had.
I agree with. That's why I'm trying to separate the actual wording of what they're saying. I'm trying to take the player out of it and just saying if another player did it, I don't even want to attach a name to it, someone who had never been fined or never been suspended, what would have happened here? I'm trying to talk about more of, I just don't understand what we keep taking away from the game. I just don't agree with this.
One way or another, he is suspended 3 games. It's the third time that he has been suspended. 3 games. It's the multiple 3-game suspensions. I misspoke. That was the second time he's suspended for 3 games.
Right.
He's the first player in the Goodell era to be given multiple 3-game suspensions for an on-field act. Straight Talk Wireless nationwide coverage on America's largest and most dependable 4G LTE networks. Meanwhile, Ezekiel Elliott's appeal. We got some details on what they are using in his appeal, what his defense is using in his appeal. And I was confused by it. The attribution on this is our Dan Graziano. Aside from questioning whether Elliott's conduct warranted a 6-game suspension, the union is also challenging the process by which the NFL arrived at 6 games and will cite a lack of precedent for a suspension of that length, according to a source with knowledge of the hearing. So here's the part of that I found confusing, and maybe you can help me with it. If there is no precedent for this, what there is quite recently and very publicly an announcement made by the National Football League that 6 games is kind of the benchmark. Yes, they can go a little less. Yes, they can go a little more. But generally speaking, I think anyone who's paying attention knows domestic violence equals 6 games, and then we'll figure it out from there. So I would have thought that if you're defending Zeke Elliott, all you can be doing, I would have guessed, was trying to argue the facts that he actually did it. If you're acknowledging that he did it, but you're arguing the process, I think you'll lose because 6 games is the 6 games.
Here's my thought, and it's the NFL's fault for this, quite honestly.
Why is that?
Because name me a guy who's gotten suspended for 6 games for domestic violence. Look at Josh Brown, 1 game.
Yeah, but didn't they put the policy in after that?
The policy after Josh Brown? I don't think it was after Josh Brown.
When did they announce that it was going to be 6 games? I feel like that was after Hardy.
To me, yeah. The Hardy went 10-4 because they tried to have the new one in and
the new policy, old policy.
Here's my
was
thought.
Brown after 6 games? I forget. I'm losing track of the timeline.
I think Brown was after it, but I'm not positive. We'll find out. Here's my point. I'm saying it's on the NFL. The NFL should have never said it can be less than 6 games. Never. If they said if it's egregious and we want to make it more, we can. We should have said if we find something and there's going to be a suspension, it's going to be 6 games, and we're going to start. And that's the starting point. But once you go lower than that, it does open it up to saying, okay, why did he get X games and he get 6 games? So you can bring that to question. So that's where. While I'm glad the NFL put the policy into play, I wish they would have just said, if we do an investigation and we find there's some guilt there, it's starting at 6 games. It's starting. That's the absolute positive bare minimum you're going to get is 6 games. That's how we feel about domestic violence. And if our investigation finds that we feel there was something there, it's 6 games. And that may be a lot, and the union may fight it and say this is ridiculous. But to your point of Ray Rice, you should have suspended him for a year and let him fight it. To me, this policy should have been, we do an investigation, we see something that is domestic violence, it's 6 games. It's 6 games. That's where it starts.
So you're right. The policy went into place August of 2014. New policy, 6 games. The Josh Brown thing happened 2 years later. Well, then shame on them. How they screwed that up, I have no idea.
Well, one of the things there is Josh Brown. There was no, his wife was not cooperative in this one. Obviously, there was a lot of cooperation going on, which brings up a lot of question for people. Is saying why is Zeke being suspended at all? There's a lot of people think some shady things had gone on there. But with Josh Brown, I mean. Did the league blow that one? I think they did. Yeah. I mean, given some of the information that they had, but they did 1 game. Should be 6. And then we got no issue here at all. It is 6 if we find anything. And it's not that way. So I can understand for now them saying, okay, you think we did it. Why 6 then? Why 6? You did 1 here. Why 6?
I get it. The only thing I'll say is I would have thought they would And maybe they are also arguing he didn't do it.
Right.
You know, I mean,
and they're arguing procedural things as well that maybe can
if
use
there was
as
a
court.
policy that says 6 on it, the number 6 is written on the piece of paper.
6 is written
very
there,
tough to,
but you know what you got to keep doing?
To
You got to keep reading it.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point. Or you've got to look at also the history of what they've done with it.
Right.
The Josh Brown thing was another major mistake. So they got Ray Rice totally wrong, and they got Josh Brown totally wrong.
After they put in the new policy.
And they're sort of paying for that now with this. I don't think Zeke Elliott's suspension is going to get reduced.
I don't either. I hope they stay. You know, it's 6, and I wish they would change their policy and just say it's 6. That is the absolute bare minimum. You want to fight it in court, you want to fight it in appeal, that's fine, but this is where we're starting.
We'll get the latest from Adam Schefter. He'll join us in our studio coming up, where Mike and Mike were presented by Progressive Insurance. Another reminder coming up on our Shell Pennzoil Performance Line later this morning, 2 coaches from Houston on this hashtag Day of Giving for all of us at the Walt Disney Company. Bill O'Brien, coach of the Texans, in about 40 minutes, and then A.J. Hinch, manager of the Astros, in the 9 o'clock hour Eastern, 8 o'clock hour Houston time, as we are doing our best to try and help you find ways to help everyone affected by Hurricane Harvey. And I'll remind you once more, redcross.org/ESPN, or you can text the word Harvey to 90999 to make a $10 donation.
It's a great way to be able to, again, if you want to give this way, if there are other ways that you can find a way as well, but right now we have people helping people, really people helping a lot, animals, everything, and it's great to see. So we just hope that the giving keeps on giving.
Home isn't just a place, it's a feeling that you're safe to enjoy the things that matter most. ADT lets you take that feeling with you, whether you're at home, your business, or online. We help keep you safe with security systems, home automation, alarms, and surveillance, so you can feel at home wherever you are. Go to ADT.com to get that feeling for less than $1 a day. ADT. Home, safe home.
First time skydiving?
Sure is.
Okay, you just open the door like this and you jump. Wait.
Should we be like in tandem?
Tandem? That's a great idea.
Are you a certified instructor?
No, but I love parachutes and I love people. Here we go.
You wouldn't take chances with an uncertified skydiving instructor. Don't do it with your finances. Find a certified financial planner professional today at letsmakeaplan.org. CFP. Work with the highest standard.
We are Mike and Mike. Again, this is the day that all of us at the Walt Disney Company, across the ABC networks and across ESPN, are doing a hashtag Day of Giving, which I notice right now is the #1 trending hashtag in the United States, which is great. And we'll remind you again, redcross.org/ESPN. You can text the word Harvey to 90999 to make a $10 donation. All of us doing whatever we can to help all of our friends in Houston and the surrounding area. I saw Adam Schefter was tweeting about that this morning as well. And Schefty joins us here bright and early. Good morning, Schefty.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Let's start with Vontaze Burfict. I know we'll get to Zeke Elliott in a minute, but I want to start with Burfict because Golic has been really hot on this all week long. And what did you hear from people about the role that Burfict's history played in this being deemed an illegal hit at all? Mike is looking at the play, and he's questioning whether this should have been considered even a penalty, much less something that was finable and suspensionable. What are you hearing from people in the league?
I think if rookie defensive player X makes that hit, I don't think he gets suspended at all. And I know it's a new rule for the league this year that it's implementing, but the fact of the matter is Vontaze Burfict's history absolutely played a part in it. He's had numerous fines, numerous violations, numerous instances where the league felt he violated the rules, where he's been handed down fines, where he's been suspended. He was suspended 3 games for hitting Antonio Brown in a playoff game for an accumulation of his previous behavior. So because of his history, that absolutely factored into the 5 games. And I think when James Thrash, the appeals officer, looked at the hit in his own mind as a former player, he looked at it and said, this hit does not deserve 5 games. But we're going to give it 3 games. It's a new rule. And so Vontaze Burfict missed the first 3 games of the season.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I'll just disagree. I mean, I spoke in my piece on that, but that happens. But no, the one thing we do definitely agree on: his history. He loses the benefit of the doubt to a lot of people because of his history, and a guy that unfortunately is building a little bit of a history early on in his career is Zeke Elliott with the suspension of the 6 games and now the appeal process running 2 days and going into a third day today. Anything new on that or when this could be over if everything's done by Friday, how soon a decision could be made?
Yeah, my understanding is that we're going to get a decision we're likely to get a decision between Friday night and Monday. So that means at some point this weekend we are likely to hear something. Now, again, there's a lot of chatter going on. The appeal process is still unfolding. And I have always been of the mind that I thought it would be tough for him to get it reduced. But the more that I've spoken to people and the more that I've heard, the more I think that he has a real chance to have some games knocked off the suspension here. Now, I don't know whether it goes from 6 to 5, 6 to 4, 6 to 2. We'll see. But I'm just telling you, the sense I'm getting is that there's a chance, he stands a real chance of getting some games reduced here. And then the question is whether or not he would take it to court. And I don't know that he could take it to court in such a way where he'd be granted an injunction or a stay and be able to play the opener. There's so much to still be determined here right now in this particular case. And there have been so many people that are asking about this, and they have their own reasons for asking about it. There's the case as it stands on its own, the significance of it, and then there's also outside areas that people are very consumed by for you can figure out the obvious reasons. But the more that I talk to people, and I was not of this mind, the more I sense that there's a real chance that he could have some time knocked off here.
Based on what, Schefter? Are you hearing that specifically? What Mike and I were just going through the possibilities. Is it based on Josh Brown only getting 1 game even after the 6-game policy had been put in?
No, it's the facts of the case. And again, they're coming in and there is sworn testimony in this case, and I'm sure some of the sworn testimony over time will emerge, and everybody will get to see what has and has not been said here the last 24, 48 hours and during the course of this appeal hearing. But, and I've not been allowed there, nor have a lot of people been allowed there. We don't even know where it is in New York City. They're keeping that at an undisclosed location, so they want to keep this as much under wraps as possible. But I'm just telling you, the sense that I get is from what's being said there that there's a chance here that there could be some time knocked off, and we'll see whether or not that's true. I might be completely off base. The people I'm speaking to might be off base, right? It might not happen. But I'm just telling you, I that's a sense I'm getting, and we'll see if it's right.
Yep, we will see if it's right. Let's go on the field a little bit. Joe Hayden, released by the Browns, was supposed to make $11 million there, didn't want to take a pay cut, gets a 3-year $27 million deal, 7 guaranteed for this year with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Had other visits lined up, had supposedly other better offers. Why did he want to stay in Pittsburgh?
Well, I think that, listen, he's played in that division. He knows that they're going to be competitive. He knows that they're going to have a chance to win the AFC North, which is something he hasn't had a chance to do. There's a real chance he's going to go to the playoffs. You know, there were other teams that I think that were interested. I think we all could identify teams that could use some cornerback help. The Chiefs, the Saints, the Dolphins, all good teams, all competitive teams. But I think that there probably was something to be said for playing for a team that you see every year, twice a year, you know is consistent, you know is going to win, you know has a real chance this year. There are people on that team that he knows, that he's friendly with, and listen, it's a sure bet. If you go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, you know that the overwhelming chances are that your team is going to be relevant and good and have a real chance to get to the playoffs, which is something you've never had a chance to do. And again, they came at him with a 3-year deal. It's $7 million guaranteed the first year. The Cleveland Browns wanted to knock down his salary to about $7 million. He didn't want to do that. So he basically gets the same money the Browns wanted to knock him down to, except he gets to go play for that money in Pittsburgh as opposed to Cleveland. And, oh, by the way, the two teams open the regular season against one another here in about 10 days.
That they do. Mike and Schefter, 2 quarterback situations. When will we see Joe Flacco, and when will we see Andrew Luck?
Joe Flacco is going to play in the opener against the Cincinnati Bengals.
Is that for sure? I mean, they keep pushing this thing back, Schefter. That's the reason. I know that they keep saying that, but you know, he was only going to miss a week of camp. I remember you were in here talking with us that one day when the Kaepernick conversation first started. It sounded like he was going to miss a week of camp, and here we are now a week away from the season.
Joe Flacco is expected to play in the regular season opener against the Cincinnati Bengals. Not an issue.
Yeah,
he'll be out there on opening day. And as for Andrew Luck, much more uncertainty. And I think with Andrew Luck, we know this, that they have said that he's not going to open the season on PUP, which means that they are not ready to sideline him for 6 weeks. And they feel all along that that's going to hold up. Now, that doesn't mean that he's not going to miss 1, 2, 3, 4 games. I think he's going to miss the start of the season. I think everybody has come to expect and accept that right now. He's not even practicing, and we're 10 games away from the start of the season. So the question is how soon they can get back. If you're asking me for a guess today about how much time he misses, I'd say he misses the first roughly month of the season. That's my guess.
Wow.
And we'll see whether or not that pans out. That's just a guess.
Right.
Look, he's not practicing yet, right? We're basically almost to September, and he's not practicing yet. So they want to be very careful. Everybody in that organization is going to be very cautious. They have said openly they don't believe that they have to put him on PUP, which means he'd be out for 6 weeks. So it's going to be somewhere less than 6 weeks. Doesn't look like he's going to be ready to open the season, but not 6 weeks. So right in the middle is 3 weeks, right?
All right, Schefter, as far as the last preseason game, Cowboys-Texans, that's been canceled. We're going to have Bill O'Brien, the Texans head coach, on in about a half hour. Talk of their first game. They want to play it in Houston next Sunday. There's talk of swapping with Jacksonville, going to Jacksonville, having Jacksonville come to Houston later in the season. Where are those talks, if anywhere?
I don't think they're very far along right now. Obviously, a lot will have to do with the condition of NRG Stadium in Houston. But I can tell you this. The Texans as an organization do not want to do that because that would mean that they are not home in Houston until October. The Jacksonville Jaguars as an organization do not want to do that because then I forget the reasoning they'd have. I'd have to look at their schedule. It's like 3 straight games at home, or they'd have like 3 straight in October. But I can tell you, having spoken to people in both organizations, nobody wants to do that. Now, the logistics are such that they may have no choice, right? If the stadium's unplayable, they're going to have to do that. But that's an idea that nobody wants to see go forward at this point in time, and we'll see whether or not the logistics prevent these sides from getting their wishes.
And final thought, one of the best things we got going now is Schefter's podcast, Know Them from Adam, in which this week you talked to a couple of the quarterbacks that teams are, quote-unquote, tanking for, in Josh Allen and Sam Darnold. Give us, for those who haven't heard it, give us one big takeaway.
Well, I think that they both would really be happy playing for the San Francisco 49ers. It's a team that appeals to both guys. I think Josh Allen grew up loving that team, and this is a draft class in 2018 that teams already are salivating over. It's getting comparisons to the quarterback draft class of 83. We could get up to 5 quarterbacks taken in the first round of the draft in 2018. And I think you're starting to see that in some of the moves that these teams are making. Everybody's got an eye on the quarterbacks in the 2018 draft. Josh Allen, Sam Darnold are 2 of the quarterbacks near the top of that list, and they're both on the Know Them from Adam podcast this week, which you can get at the ESPN app or on iTunes.
Yeah, everyone is looking to stink for Sam, and I cleaned that up. That's not the word most people are using. Schefter, thank you.
I asked him about it. I asked him. He did not want to go there. He did not want to talk about that very much.
Yeah, well, and I don't like talking about it either, but it is what it is. Thank you, Schefter.
Thanks,
but you guys have a great weekend.
Sports fans anywhere can earn a nationally recognized degree from Penn State online. Whether you're starting or finishing your degree, study where and when it's convenient for you. Choose from more than 125 programs to become a top prospect in your field and advance your career. Learn more at worldcampusinfo.com. Penn State World Campus, a world of possibilities. Online. Visit worldcampusinfo.com today. That's worldcampusinfo.com.
People affected by Hurricane Harvey, you can visit redcross.org/ESPN or text the word Harvey to 90999, and that will make a $10 donation. We're looking for as much help as we can, to help those in need out there in Houston and the surrounding areas that have been most affected. Also want to remind you, if you want to get in touch with us, tweet us at Mike and Mike through the 1-800-Flowers.com Twitter feed. Nothing makes a summer birthday or anniversary more magical than 1-800-Flowers.com. And right now, when you order a dozen multicolored roses for only $29.99, you'll get another dozen absolutely free. Just go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN.
And actually, through the Twitter, we're learning something today. Fences were originally added to Major League Baseball to keep fans off the field. to separate the fans, the spectators, from the players. I didn't realize that that's why the walls were first put in, but we are now finding out that that is the case.
I would like to know before that, when it was just fans lining up out there, when the ball got hit out there, like rolling, did they separate? I guess depending if you were home or away.
Like
or,
golf, when they hit the ball into the spectators.
Kicking it back in and helping them out?
Arnie used to say, hit it at the people.
Yeah.
They'll knock it down.
I'll be right in the middle of the fairway.
Into a good place. So we got a lot of tweets on that. We have some reaction from the NBA. Luigi tweets at us, "We, the fans, are the biggest winners of this trade. The NBA Finals are finally unpredictable. It won't be Cleveland against Golden State again." Luigi, I disagree.
I completely disagree.
I think Cleveland is better now, better suited to get to the final than they were.
Yeah, I think they're at least the same as, if not a little better. Yeah, I think it's those two teams again.
Jason, when I was saying if I were a college football coach, I don't think I'd be scheduling one of these big games, and I'm thrilled that they have them. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But to me, the loser of Alabama, Florida State leaves themselves in a position where they cannot lose another game. You can lose one game, history tells us, and get to the playoff. You can't lose two. Now, that could change, but thus far there have been 12 teams that have made the playoff, and none of them had 2 losses. So Jason then tweets, "Greeny, you have to remember the impact on recruiting as well when coaches are making schedules. Better games equals better recruits." Is that accurate?
I don't know if I buy that for these two teams. These two teams always play great schedules. They have, a couple of smaller schools in there. Obviously, in the SEC, we see it before the big rivalry games as well toward the end of the year. I don't know if that makes – I think recruits go to like a Florida State and an Alabama because they know they're going to be in it every year, and you're going to play big games every year, and you have the potential to be in your conference championship game every year and possibly the Final Four. So I think it's a great game. There'll be recruits at this game without question. I think it is a cool thing to see, but I don't know I don't know the impact of saying, I'm going there because they play these first big games.
Mike and Mike were brought to you in part by DraftKings. Play free 1-week fantasy football at DraftKings. Just use the code Mike, only at DraftKings.com. And I tell you, as we just look at the fantasy impacts of certain things that are going on, Andrew Luck, Schefter is guessing that he's going to miss something in the neighborhood of the first 3 games, 4 games. It's a disaster for the Colts. How about for the Ravens? Schefter was definitive. Flacco will start week 1. He basically hasn't seen any action at all. Does that make a difference?
I mean, he's been throwing, so we see that. I'm telling you, all I got to tell you is a back, man. A back you just don't know. And he was supposed to be out a week, and then it led to another week. Now, is it because it was still hurt, or are you just playing it safe? That's one to keep an eye on for during the early part of the season. Will there be an effect there? Because a back, man, you never know when that thing's going to flare up. How you hit, how you get twisted, how you fall one time. That's a tough call.
And finally, boy, were you right on the domestic violence policy and how it has not been enacted since it was put in place in 2004, when everybody knows the number is 6. Like, they put the number 6. Now, they also put in, it could be a little less or it could be a little more, but the number is 6. Well, since then, Josh Brown was arrested on a misdemeanor DV charge and suspended 1 game. Quincy Enunwa was arrested and charged with simple assault, suspended 4 games. Jonathan Dwyer arrested at the team facility for headbutting his wife, suspended 3 games. Junior Golic was arrested and charged with misdemeanor simple battery, domestic violence, and suspended 2 games. So